Okay, so this is the Frostvale Snowflake from the Draiguna blog. This is not my pattern. This pattern, as you can see on the screen there, is by Julia Hart of Draiguna. The link to the pattern is down in the description, and hopefully this isn't considered too close to reprinting or redistributing. This is not my pattern. I just figured I'd try to explain how it works. I'm not sure I'm very good at this, but we're going to give this a try. And hopefully I will answer some questions, and hopefully I won't raise more questions than I answer with this. Yeah, this pattern's a ton of fun, but it's not super easy to read. Some of the special stitches are confusing, and the last round is just a big old block of text. And it took me a while to puzzle through it, but it's a lot of fun, and it's really not nearly as complicated as it seems at first glance. Let's get back to the beginning here. Alright, so on the pattern page, you'll see lovely pictures of the finished product. Mine do not look nearly as nice and neat as the ones on here, but it's still fun. You got your materials, abbreviations, some special stitches that I will kind of talk through as I go, but it's probably a good idea to visit this site too and kind of read through the notes that she has included here as well. Alright, so beginning, we just have a basic ring start. Let's see, can I get a little bit better in focus here? There we go. You could probably also do like a magic loop. I personally am pretty partial to the magic loop, but we're just going to follow the pattern for now. So chain 4 and slip stitch into that 4th chain stitch from your hook to make a little bitty ring. We're going to work into that to start working in the round. These first 2 rounds are pretty straightforward. If you've done any sort of crocheting in the round, you'll basically know how to do this. Chain 3 to start, that counts as your first double crochet, and you do 11 more into the middle of your ring. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So now you have the equivalent of 12 double crochets worked. Then you're going to slip stitch into the 3rd chain of that first chain 3 to finish off your round. Oh, I dropped it. There we go. Maybe. Come on. There we go. So slip stitch through. You've got your 12. Round 2, same sort of thing. You're going to chain 3. You're going to work a double crochet back into that same stitch. So you basically have, you're basically going around and you're going to work 2 double crochets into each stitch. So right now I have the equivalent of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. Then you're going to slip stitch into that third chain to finish the round. I am not good at working through chains. Come on. There we go. Maybe. There it is. All right, so that's round 2. So yeah, so far it's pretty basic. In the first round it says to put a stitch marker. I don't actually have stitch markers, and I've never really used them anyway, so I'm just going to work without them. But you're going to look for that first stitch down in that first round. So round 3 is where things start getting a little bit more complicated. You're going to work both into the stitches that you made in round 2 and then around the stitches you made in round 1. So yeah, it's a little confusing. Again, you're going to start chain 3. Again, that counts as a double crochet. You're going to do this front post treble cluster, so you'll yarn over twice, and then down that first, actually the chain 3, but that first double crochet in round 1, you're going to insert your hook behind it, so not through the stitch itself, but behind the post. Draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and through 2, and then since it's a cluster, we're going to yarn over twice and do that all again around the same. Oh, come on. What am I catching? There it is. Same one. So draw through 2, draw through 2, and then you have your 3 loops. At that point, you just draw through all 3. So it makes this fun little, like, here I'm trying to hold it up here, like that's gonna help. But you've got this little cluster that sits on top, kind of in front of the work that you've already done. And that's where you start getting that layered look. And then you're going to double crochet into, let's see, where's the next stitch? The next stitch on the second round. So that's basically the first repeat, chain 3. So here you can see where the repeat is. After that chain 3, you're going to double crochet into the next double crochet, like so. Do that treble cluster again in the next stitch, so again around the post, not through the stitch itself. I'm going to do that cluster, so you'll end up with this little almost V-shaped thing going on. And then double crochet into the next stitch. And chain 3. And double crochet into the next. Treble crochet, cluster around the next post. There might be one off on this, but it shouldn't make much of a difference. Double crochet into the next stitch, On the second round, chain 3, double crochet. So I hope you can see that what I'm doing at this angle. I really didn't put a whole lot of planning into this, I just kind of set up a camera and went for it. So yeah, hopefully this makes some amount of sense. Chain 3, double crochet, treble crochet, cluster down in the first round, double crochet into the next stitch. Sometimes I find it's hard to see which stitches you've already worked into. If you flip it over, let's see if you can, I don't know, my hands are probably in the way. But if you flip it over, you can see a little bit better, like I've worked into that stitch, but not the next one. Because sometimes those clusters kind of get in the way, kind of block what you're supposed to be seeing there. Chain 3. Double crochet into the next stitch, cluster, I should say treble crochet cluster, because there's also a cluster stitch that we'll do later that is different. Double crochet into the next stitch, that one. Chain 3, double crochet, treble cluster. And what you're looking for at the end of this round is to have 12 of these little treble clusters sticking up. So make sure you've got that, because if you don't have it, it makes the ending rather difficult. I kind of messed that up the first time I did it. I didn't count right. I had to go back and fix it. Double crochet, chain 3, double crochet, treble around the post, I hope so. Alright, double crochet into the next stitch, just there, chain 3, double crochet, treble cluster, double, chain 3, double, treble cluster, double crochet, chain 3, double crochet, treble cluster, double, chain 3, double, something does not look quite right here. What did I do wrong? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, maybe not. I think we're okay. Gotta love second guessing yourself. Oh, that does look a little funky. We'll count here in a minute, make sure. And double. Chain 3. And slip stitch into the third chain up to finish the round. Alright, let's make sure. We should now have 12 of those clusters and 12 chain 3 spaces. So we've got from the hook 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I did go around that one twice. That's why it looks funky. Alright, I'm going to pause and go back and fix that. But that's basically how the third round works. Just don't work around the same double crochet twice, because then you confuse yourself and then you have to go back and fix your mistake, like I'm about to do. Alright, let's pause. Okay, so I think I explained that all correctly. I accidentally worked 2 clusters into the same double, or around the same double crochet, and it threw me off. I'm fairly certain I explained it all correctly though. You should have ended that round with a chain 3 that slip stitched into the third chain of the original chain 3 that functions as a double crochet. So you should now have, and hopefully I haven't counted yet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 clusters, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 chain spaces. So we're good to go for the next round there. So that was round 3. Round 4, you're going to slip stitch into the, into the cluster, which is right here. So that next stitch, chain 1. And then you're going to, let's see if I can remember what we're doing here. Right, we're going to basically be making like little Ys, little, these clusters are going to, we're going to continue that motif outwards, if that makes any sense at all. Hopefully once I do it, it will, and hopefully I'll stay in frame here for you. So we've slip stitched into the cluster that we made in the last round. We're going to double crochet around both posts of that cluster. So here, I'm going to double crochet there. We're going to chain 3, and we're going to double crochet around the same one. I did notice, just quickly looking at that Frostvale video, the guy doing that one, he actually worked around the other way for the second one. There was a similar motif, and that probably helps with keeping the stitches from twisting some, but I sort of kind of tried it before and didn't notice much of a difference, and it just seemed like more of a hassle than it was worth. So I'm just working the same direction for both of them. But if you like it better working back the other way for the second double crochet, then do that. Then you're going to single crochet into the chain space. So that's basically what we're repeating around on this round here. So double crochet around the cluster, chain 3, double crochet around the cluster again, and single crochet into the chain space. And we do that over and over, all the way around. Double crochet around the post cluster, chain 3, double crochet around the post of the cluster again, there we go, and single crochet into the chain space. So you can see we're starting to make those little Y motifs. If I hold it this way, you can, well, maybe if I hold it in front of the camera, you can kind of see where it's making like a Y shape, kind of near my thumb here. And so we'll be working into each leg of the Y, or each arc of that Y, in the next round. But that's what we're doing on this round. So double crochet to make the first leg of the Y, chain 3. And I don't know if the Y makes sense to everybody, but that's kind of how my brain works. It looks like a Y, so I'm going to call it a Y. Single crochet into the chain space, double crochet, chain 3, double crochet, and single crochet into the chain space. Double crochet around the treble cluster, chain 3, double crochet around the treble cluster, and single crochet in the chain space. Double crochet, chain 3, double crochet, single crochet in the space. Double, chain 3, double, single, double, chain 3, double, single, double. That's a nasty little loop. Where did you come from? That's like better. Chain 3. Double. Single. Double. Chain 3. Double, single, double, chain 3, double, and single. And that finishes out that round. And to end, slip stitch into the first double crochet. So our first double crochet is here, so we'll slip stitch into that to finish off the round. Alright, so now we should have, let's see, 24 of those double crochets, which makes sense because we work 2 into each of the clusters. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, and then 12 of the chain spaces. Oh, fuzzy. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Perfect. Alright, so that's round 4. Round 5. Round 5 is where we kind of finish that oval motif. So we've kind of started that with our clusters being the bottom of the oval, and then the Y. We're going to basically connect one leg of the Y to the other, to the leg of the next Y to finish off that oval, if that makes any sense at all. Hopefully it'll make sense as we go. So we're going to slip stitch into the top, or that second chain of that chain space, so the top of that chain space. Chain 1, single crochet back into the chain space, chain 2, and then we're going to decrease by working around the post of that second double crochet in that way and around the first double crochet in the next way. At least that's how my brain kind of looks at it. So that's where we're kind of pulling that oval back and connecting it at the top. Chain 2, single crochet into the chain space. So chain 2, double crochet, and this decrease goes around the posts. So you yarn over, draw up a loop, draw through 2, yarn over in the next Y around that first leg, draw up a loop, draw through 2, and then draw through all 3. Chain 2, single crochet into the chain space. Chain 2, around the first, or the kind of left leaning leg of that way, and then around the right leaning leg of the next way. Chain 2, single crochet into the chain space. Chain 2, decrease, chain 2, single crochet in the space, chain 2, decrease, chain 2, single crochet into the space, chain 2, decrease, chain 2, single crochet, 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 chain 2, decrease, there we go. Chain 2, single, chain 2, decrease. Where does this? Alright. So that's our last decrease. Then we chain 2 and we slip stitch into the first single crochet, which is right up in here. Oh, no, in there. Alright, so now you can see how we kind of have this oval thing happening. Let's see if I can get my thumb out of the way, but you can kind of see how it makes like that oval motif. think this is so fun. I love this layered look. All right. Oh, cables. All right, so round 6. Round 6 is the complicated one. There are a lot of words here, and I really kind of wish they had split it up into sections. I think that would have made a lot more sense. Yeah, so we're just going to work through this, and hopefully it makes at least a little sense. It's doable. I did it last night. It's just hard to read. Okay, so from here, I'm going to chain 1, single crochet back in the same single crochet there, and then into the next chain 2 space. Then we're going to chain 1. We're going to single crochet around the decrease that we just made. So right here, single crochet. And then we're going to do what she's calling a picot, which in this case is chain 3, and then slip stitch back into the single crochet you just made. Chain 1, and then we'll single crochet into the chain space first, and then into the single crochet following, but not into the next chain space. So we've made just this little picot right there above that decrease. Now we're going to start working on the first, I guess it'd be an arm of the snowflake. Sorry, I've got a mic cable here and it's like wanting to sneak up over my shoulder. Okay, yeah, so we're going to start working up the leg. First we're going to make a little bump. It's kind of like a picot, but different from how she described it here. You're basically just going to chain 3, slip stitch into the 3rd chain from your hook to make that little picot thing. And then you're going to double crochet around the posts of the next decrease, like so. And so now we're going to start working up. So we're going to do what she's calling a cluster, which is chain 2, double crochet down into that last double crochet you made to work further up. Now we're going to make that little motif where it's got like the 3 little bits that point out at the end of the leg of the snowflake there. So we're going to chain 3. The pattern says to place a stitch marker. Again, I don't have any, and I've never really used any, so I'm just going to kind of keep track of this first chain stitch there, because we're coming back to it. And then we're going to slip stitch the 2nd and 3rd chains from the hook, like so. Then we're making a large picot, which is just chain 5, and slip stitch into that 5th chain from your hook. Now we're going to make that 3rd little one, which is similar to that first little pokey bit, but we're only going to chain 2, and instead of chaining into the 2nd and 3rd like we did here, we're going to chain into the 2nd and then into that marked stitch. So that first chain there, and you can kind of see how it's made. It's not facing the camera super well, but you've got the 3 little, that little motif that sits at the end there. And so now we're going to start working our way back down. Slip stitch back into that double crochet from the cluster, and then we're going to cluster again. So chain 2, double crochet back into that same stitch, and then double crochet around the posts of that decrease from the last round. And then we're going to make that little bump. So for the other side, chain 3, slip stitch into the 3rd chain from your hook, like so, chain 1. And this is where our repeat starts. So you can see we made one little picot that sticks out of the body of the snowflake and then the first leg. So we're basically just repeating that over and over again. So this is where the we've made it through this chain 1 here, so we're about to start into this repeating section. All right. Oh, stretch a bit. There we go. All right, so we're going to single crochet into the next single crochet after that chain 2 space, and then into the next chain 2 space. Chain 1, yes, yeah. Chain 1, single crochet around that next decrease, like so. Make a picot. Chain 1, single crochet into the chain space, and then into the single crochet. Now we're going to start working on the next leg, so chain 3, slip stitch into the third chain from your hook, double crochet around the decrease, the next decrease there. Oh, I did not tension that super well. Ew. Yeah, that's bothering me. We're going to try this again real fast. Alright, going back to the chain 3. That's slightly better. Alright, so double crochet around the decrease again. There we go. Alright, and then we're going to cluster. So chain 2, double crochet back into that last double crochet. And we're going to make that little motif. So chain 3, remember that first chain, we're coming back to it. Slip stitch in the second, chain from your hook. Maybe. And the third chain from your hook. Which I suppose now is the second chain from your hook, because you just worked into the second one. Alright, large picot, chain 5. Slip stitch into the 5th chain from your hook. Chain 2. Remember, this is where we chain into that second chain from your hook, and then into the one from the beginning of the motif here that you may or may not have put a stitch marker in. Slip stitch into the double crochet from the cluster, cluster again, and then double crochet around the decrease again. And make the little bump, chain 3, slip stitch into the 3rd chain from your hook, and chain 1. And we just repeat that. So single crochet into the next single crochet, and into the next chain 2 space, chain 1, single crochet around the next decrease, picot, chain 3, slip stitch back into that single crochet, chain 1, single crochet into the chain space, and then into the next single crochet. Then we're working up the leg, so 3, chain 3, slip stitch into the 3rd chain from your hook, double crochet around the posts of the next decrease, and then cluster, so chain 2, double crochet back into that double crochet. Then we're working the motif, so chain 3, slip stitch into the 2nd and 3rd chain from your hook, chain 5 for the large picot, slip stitch into the 5th from your hook, chain 2, slip stitch into the 2nd chain from your hook, there we go, and into the beginning of the motif, that first chain, and into the double crochet from the cluster, cluster again, chain 2, double crochet back into that stitch. Yep. There we go. and then double crochet around the decrease. Chain 3, slip stitch into the third chain from your hook. Single crochet into the next single crochet and into the chain space, chain 1, single crochet around that decrease, picot, so chain 3, slip stitch back into the single crochet you just made, chain 1, single crochet into the chain space and into the single crochet, chain 3, slip stitch into the third from your hook, double crochet around the next decrease, chain 2, double crochet back into the double crochet you just made, chain 3, slip stitch into the second and third from your hook, chain 5, slip stitch into the fifth from your hook, chain 2, slip stitch into the second from your hook, the beginning of that little motif, maybe, there we go, and into the double crochet from the cluster, I'm not quite in front there, am I? Another cluster, and double crochet back around that, oh, that's not a double crochet, around that decrease again. Chain 3, slip stitch into the third from your hook, single crochet into the next single crochet, there we go, and into the next chain space, chain 1, single crochet around the next decrease, chain 3, slip stitch into the single crochet, chain 1, single crochet into the chain space and into the single crochet, chain 3, slip stitch into the third from your hook, double crochet around the next decrease, chain 2, double crochet back into that double crochet, chain 3, slip stitch into the second and third chains from your hook, chain 5, slip stitch into the fifth from your hook, chain 2, slip stitch into the second from your hook in the bottom of the motif, and then into the double crochet from the cluster, cluster again, double crochet around the decrease, chain 3, slip stitch into the third chain from your hook, chain 1, single crochet into the single crochet and the chain space, maybe, there we go, chain 1, single crochet around the decrease, chain 3, slip stitch back into that single crochet, chain 1, single crochet into the space and into the single crochet, chain 3, slip stitch into that third from your hook, double crochet around the next decrease, chain 2, double crochet back in the double crochet that you just made, chain 3, slip stitch into the second and third, maybe, good. Lost it. There we go, there's the second, and there's the third, chain 5, slip stitch into the fifth, chain from your hook, wow, I'm struggling with this one today. All the others went so smoothly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, slip stitch. There it is, chain 2, slip stitch into the second, bottom motif, top cluster. Ooh, it sounds like my computer's about to take off. Wee fans. Chain 2, because we're clustering again. Double crochet, then double crochet around the decrease, chain 3, slip stitch third from your hook, chain 1, and then slip stitch to that first single crochet, and that's it. You got yourself a snowflake. Yeah, look at that. Obviously mine's not quite as nice and neat as the pictures on the pattern itself. I also don't have any scissors, so I can't just cut it off here, so I'll set it, leave that loop sitting there for a minute. But yeah, then you just finish off weaving your ends, and you'll probably want to block this, because at least if your work is anything like mine, it kind of just wants to be uneven and not lie flat. But yeah, there you go. Hopefully that answered some questions and wasn't too terribly confusing. It's mostly just that 6th round that is really hard to read. It's just a big block of text, and it's not split up super well. But at least for me, once I got kind of wrapped my head around the different portions of how to do it, it worked out pretty well. Yeah, so yeah, hopefully that made a little bit of sense. Wasn't too confusing. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them on Reddit or in the comments there or whatever, and I'll try to help. Yeah, hopefully that helped you out some.